Okay, and welcome to another episode of the Athletic Development Show. Very special guest today, Bree Filippone. Bree, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you. What a pleasure.
Great to have you
here. Fan.
You're very kind. So one of the coolest things in my whole career in life is getting to have athletes that train with you as youngsters. Because Bree, you started with me when you were like 14, 15, and seeing them go through this evolution into becoming amazing coaches. And it's happened every now and then. And just so great to see everything that you're doing, Bree. And I think it'd be great to chat to you about really what you're getting up to and some of your thoughts, because I love the stuff that you've been putting out there. I think it's been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Let's talk about all the things that you do. So you are the owner and founder. So your account on Instagram is Bree Active. You're the owner, founder of The Finisher, the HIT Project. You're an ambassador for Lululemon Australia. You coach out of Life Hub, which is a kick-ass gym in Moorabbin, although not as much lately, obviously, and Link Health and Fitness in Ocean Grove. So you're doing a lot. Tell us about those projects. I'd love to hear all about them.
Yeah, I've definitely got my fingers in so many pies at the moment. I do. I mean, it's a little bit quieter at the moment because of these lockdowns that we're in. So I haven't been back in Melbourne for since June, July, I think it was. However, you'd know exactly the date that we went back in. So it's been a while since I've been there, but currently at Life Hub coaching PT and group fitness classes for general pop. And then
and you're doing that online at the moment?
Yeah, so we're putting together a few free Zoom workouts for our clients and generally anyone around Australia who wants to join in for free 3 times a week, which is a bit of fun, which gives us, something to do mainly and keeps the community connected, which is perfect. Gives me a little cheeky workout to get done as well.
That's good.
So that's what I'm doing currently at Life Hub at the moment. My businesses are The Finisher and the HIT Project. Currently, The Finisher isn't quite a business. It's just a community run or walk crew that I put together with my partner, Gabe, just over 2 years ago now down in Surf Coast, Victoria. And it kind of started off as this little bunch of mates or a couple of people coming together and running up and down hills. And we started to build a little bit of momentum, have a little bit more fun with it. We got really creative with our branding and marketing, and it kind of just took off, and it's been epic since we've had
it's
our last
huge.
finisher.
I watched the videos. It's amazing. Yeah.
Look, it surprised us. We didn't think it would be that special for a little run club to get so big, but I think at our first birthday, right before the start of the pandemic in 2020, we had, I think, 170 people rock up in Barwon Heads and run up and down hills for 30 minutes and connect and get coffee and do meditation. It was wonderful. So that's what I'm doing.
So cool. That's got to be a pretty high percentage of the running population in Barwon Heads. Like that's a lot of people.
This is the whole town.
That's great. That's great.
It's pretty special. I don't know where these people come from, and I'll give you a bit of a backstory as to why we started it. So, so I grew up in Melbourne. I've known you since I was a little baby in the gym at 14, and gosh, those are the days. And when I met my partner, when I was
fun days.
They were fun. When I was 21, met my partner, and I was midway through my degree, and
How old are you now?
I'm old. I'm getting older. I'm 27.
Well, that's so weird. 27. Oh my god. Right. Okay.
I know. Yeah, I say that every day as well.
Crazy. Sorry. Go on.
Story time. Back to the story. All good.
Yeah.
So I met my partner when I was 21, and I was midway through my degree. I was at Deakin. I was like, it's too hard. He lived in Ocean Grove. It was too hard to just see him on weekends. And I was like, look, I've got really nothing committing me to Melbourne. I may as well transfer from Burwood campus to Geelong and finish my degree there. Moved down, no friends. I had a boyfriend, no one else I knew. stupidly thought it was a great idea to start a PT running business. So I started the HIT project initially. Great, still runs to this day. And but I just felt that I found it really hard to make friends. And, you know, the people I was meeting that weren't my partner's mates, they were epic people, but I was always seen as the coach figure and this fitness figure and this
right.
And I don't know if it was a bit of an identity crisis for me, but I just felt like, oh gosh, I just want to get out and meet people. So that's how we started the Finisher, kind of on a glisten of like, I'd love to make some new mates but not be the coach. Like, I'd love to host something and it worked. That was a great byproduct of a run club, but I've met some of the greatest people in my life that I'm best mates with, and continuing to make lifelong friends through this silly little run crew, and people don't even know until they start following me on Instagram that I'm a PT. Like, they're like, what do you do for work? I'm like, oh, I do this.
Yeah. That's really cool. I totally get why you want to not be a coach, because people are funny. Like, you know, you'll bump into them, they'll be eating a donut and they'll like try and stuff it in their pocket. Like, people are funny when they know you're a coach, and they just treat you a little bit differently. So that's a really good play to have something that is in an area you love, but it's not tied to your work. I like that a lot. So you meet. So it happens weekly that you have. It's a weekly run club, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it works when it works. It's not working at the moment because we can't gather too many people. But when it does, it started off every Sunday. We would put up a location on Instagram and online, and we'd say where that location would be. Different places around the surf coast, like Torquay, Bowen Heads, Ocean Grove, Point Lonsdale, Geelong. We'd find a location that had a really big hill, and we would meet there. Okay. And, completely free. No one signed in. No one told us who was there. And, we just run up and down a hill for 30 minutes and do some meditation at the end and have some fun and get coffee.
That's great. I love it so much. Okay. At what time do you do it? Is it the same time every week?
Same time, 7 a.m. in summer, up in winter when it was getting really dark and cold, we made it 7:30 just to get a few people out of bed.
Okay. Yeah. Good. And is it always hills, or have you varied that up now where you run flats as well?
It's always hills. Actually, we have another session as well now on a Wednesday. We have a Track Wednesday sesh where we've collaborated with a couple of mates who are epic runners or track and field coaches themselves, and we've delegated out to some mates to host some track sessions for that extra spice and I guess great. A little bit more structure as well, because, you know, there's no structure for Sundays. It's you see a hill, run the hill, you can walk it, you can run it, you could do a bit of both. Whereas this one's like a little bit more purpose-driven, which it went really well when we were able to do it. So hopefully we'll be back soon.
That's great. And that'll help with the hills as well, and vice versa.
Yes.
So running is very close to my heart. I feel like weight training makes you feel powerful, but running makes you feel free. But in order to have the freedom to run, I need to do the training so that my body doesn't fall apart on me and I can feel springy and good. I love, you write really well about running. And also you have the advantage of you take cool pictures of you running, so you can have the pictures and the words. I don't get that because I just look stupid running because I'm old. Tell me how you think about running and why it's so important to your vitality, health, spiritual stuff.
Yeah, I love how you said that running makes you free and lifting makes you feel powerful. I completely agree with that 100%. I think for me, like, my personal story with running is like, especially when I knew you, I started off, I was a basketballer and was really into that, had injuries, niggles. Basketball was my sport. That's what kept me fit.
I tell the story properly. That's a start again. That's rubbish. So just for context, this is typical Bree. So Bree was an elite basketballer in the under 16 Vic Metro basketball team, the hardest team to get into in Australia. And she had the misfortune of doing her ACL, like you're a gun, and did one of the best ACL rehabs in the history of my career. Like, she knocked her rehab out of the park. Did such a good job. Do you remember what someone said to you one time about your knee? Do you remember the one of my favourite memories?
No.
Is someone said, "Hey, how's it?" It was about like maybe it was 4 months post return to play, and you came into the gym and told me. I'll never forget. Someone said, "Oh, how's your knee?" And you were like, "My what?" And like, "Your knee, the knee reconstruction." She's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I had a knee reco." It went that well.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I was bluffing.
Anyway, so you're an elite you're an elite basketballer. And then that kind of, and we got back in record time. You did great, but sometimes that can be enough to close that door. But you've put the same level of intensity that you brought to the rest of your life. I think it's important to recognise, because you'll be too modest about it. Anyway, interruption over. Back to you. Carry on back to the running.
I forgot what I was going to say. Back to the running.
So you were saying how you got into the running. Yeah. So you got injured. And then running.
Got injured and like awesome rehab. Got back to playing the game. Got back to playing the sport. Kept playing for a few years and I don't think I made a state team again. But I think when I was that young, like for me, I learnt that there was more to my life at that time that I really wanted to accomplish. But I didn't want to finish playing the sport. So I played for a few more years, played seniors and D-League at the time. And in my final, year, I would call it, of playing sport, my mind was kind of elsewhere. I kind of got a bit more of my story and kind of got a bit caught up in body image and eating disorders at the time when I was quite young. I was 19, 20 and kind of started getting into running and loved running, but I also started to stop getting court time playing at the level that I was playing at.
Yeah.
So I was like wanting to run because I wasn't sure if I was going to get court time, and often I would, not run on the day that I really beautiful weather outside. I wanted to run. I had a track that I wanted to hit. I wanted to build to 15 Ks or whatever it was, and then I didn't get court time, and I was like, bloody hell, like could have gone for a run. So yeah, and so that's how kind of running came to me, and I decided at the end of one of the seasons that I wasn't going to return back because running had become a little bit more important to me. Mind you, I'm a very novice runner. I'm not I don't place, I don't enter competitions. I just run for the fun of it like most people do. And just really got into it. However, when I was getting into running at that time, every single run I did was fast. Every single run I did was further. It was all about faster, further, faster, further. And if I was going to do a 3 or 4K run, if it wasn't so fast, it was shit. Like, that's my mindset at the time. And it sounds like silly when I say it out loud, but like it felt like that's how you do it. And I did get some injuries, like some really basic running injuries that most runners will get when they spike their volume too quickly, whether it was a stressy or a ITB friction or something like that. I had all of them.
You had a fib stressy, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a fib stressy when I was playing basketball. Yeah, fib was stressy. Right, yeah, it was earlier. I don't know. I actually don't know how that happened, but got it. It's a bit of a flex, actually. So yeah, that was my mentality for years, and I reckon I had that mentality about running for 4 years. And whenever I got back to running, it was like, all right, how can I get back to how I was, like get faster, fitter, whatever. Have consistently kept up the strength training, knowing, I think you educated me in the gym, like Breezer, you do know that to be fast, you got to be strong. And you gave me some epic stats, and I was like, yeah, okay, keep lifting. So,
I'm so glad you have. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, I reckon I've got you on voice record in my brain with some of the epic things you've said when I was a kid or when I was younger, and it sticks with me for life.
That's great. Yeah, that's cool.
Fast forward with my not very amazing running, just general pop running. I don't even know. I couldn't tell you the exact time that it kind of dawned on me that I was just doing it wrong. Like whether it was coming of age, realizing that running fast, you lose the joy sometimes. Like I was just losing joy out of running on some occasions because I'm like, and then there's that self-disappointment. I don't know if it was like Strava and you know that became a thing. It's still a thing. You've got friends who are following.
Do you know it's interesting? I did Strava like once. I did it for a run. I looked at my Strava, and I just had this. It just felt like I was ruining running by having it be out there. I was like, this is my thing. And even though I talk about it a bit on social, but yeah, I did it. I literally, my Strava has one run on it. I use a Stride, which is a 9-axis accelerometer that goes on my little on my shoes, because I like to know how far and fast I'm running, but only I get that data. But it's interesting, yeah. I'm the same. I didn't like that. I would come home from the run after I came home from that run, and I felt like, people are going to think I'm crap. I don't want people to know how slow I was. It's quite an interesting dynamic, isn't it? How fast? Yeah, it takes the fun out of it. How fast is fast for you, and how fast is like what's an easy run? What's a fast 5K? What's an easy 5K? What kind of paces do you hit?
Now or back then? Because I'm much slower now.
Yeah.
And now I go kind of on heart rate. So like for me, a flex is if I can keep my heart rate below 150 for my whole run, I'm stoked. However, my stats are looking like 6.5 minute Ks, 6 minute Ks. And then if I can keep my heart rate lowish in 5 minute Ks, I'm like, wow, like I'm doing good. Like I'm fit. And then, but if I'm...
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
We're opposites. So for me, I finish a run, like I go on a run and I come back and I'm like, my heart rate was only averaging 148. And I'm like, that's pathetic. Like I'm always trying to push to get my heart rate up a little because I feel like I wuss out a little too much. Even I'm running a slow one.
Yeah.
It's like, very interesting.
I guess it goes off like, say, your heart rate max. Right? Like it depends on the zone of training. So if your, heart rate max is moderate, high, low, whatever, for me, I'm like, well, I want my cruisy running. I know I'm going to train aerobically and improve my aerobic capacity, which is my slow running capacity if I'm in, a zone 2, like maybe we're geeking out a little bit, but zone 2 sort of
because we had Luke McElroy from Mets on a few episodes ago, and he was talking about the polarized training idea of make sure your easy training is easy and make sure your hard training is hard, and don't spend time in the middle in the death valley of too much stimulus, not enough stimulus, too much fatigue. So that makes a lot of sense. And I suppose for you, unlike me, like I'm only doing 3 cardios a week because I lift and I cardio, whereas you're doing resistance, like your HIIT stuff is quite anaerobic, isn't it? Like you're doing that kind of stuff a little bit as well.
Yeah. And I guess that falls into that category when we talk about the other training is like, sorry if we've gone off topic. We can bring it back.
No, it's good.
No. Like the HIIT sort of stuff, if we're talking about what we do in the gym or outdoors, like the HIIT should be HIIT. Like it should be not that grey zone that you're talking about of like that in the middle of easy, or is it easy or is it hard, or is it just like hardish? Like if it's hardish, you're probably, especially in running, you're probably not going to get better at your running. Like that's really, I don't know, there's a lot of talk about slow running, hard running, how much should it be slow and easy? How much should it be hard? How do you quantify it? And like quantifying is, for me, when it comes to running, the easiest thing to do is heart rate. Like,
exactly. I'm the same. And slow runs are beautiful. We should move on because we're going to put people to sleep if we talk too much about slow runs. But I'll just close out by saying like a nice slow 7K where you're slow enough to kind of enjoy the scenery and watch the dew glistening off the trees, and it's very very zen. I like it a lot.
It is.
But you've opened up the door for HIIT training. I want to talk about HIIT training because we had one of our coaches, Hayley Campbell, on not so long ago, and we were talking about the things we hate about HIIT training, because HIIT training is it's not all good. Yours is good. Yours is smart, but you're going against the grain of the dumbing down of Gen Pop fitness that I've watched. So when I started in the 90s, as a coach in the late 90s, 99 I started, I kind of looked back at the history and it's like, oh, well, in the 70s we were doing really dumb stuff. In the 80s we're a little bit smarter. 90s we're getting quite good. And 2000s, I think like we kind of hit a pretty intelligent space somewhere in the 2000s. And then it just got dumber and dumber and dumber. And it feels like it's this thing where people are just doing really ill-conceived training that they saw on Instagram, where people are doing stuff where they don't really have structure, where people, like, I didn't know that, I only found this was a thing recently, that sometimes people will just kind of see a workout and just go randomly do it. I'm like, what do you mean just randomly do, like, no structure? And you told me about a thing called doubles. You mentioned that the other day when we were in combat. I was like, what are they called?
A double training session. Oh golly, yeah. Like you've totally nailed it. This feels like there's something that's kind of, I don't know if it's the surge of group fitness training and high intensity training, which is great. It's getting more people moving. Like that's as a coach of general population people, like anything that gets people moving is fantastic. But I think it's just gone a little too extreme in a really bizarre way of, like, people want variety, and to get variety we've got to do weird exercises. But when it comes to what you mentioned, the doubles, I didn't know it was a thing myself.
And because for context, Bree, you have a sports science degree from one of the best sports science degrees in the world. You did the Core Advantage internship, so you know smart stuff from dumb stuff, which makes it even harder to see this stuff, I reckon. It almost be better if you didn't know. Like that's what makes it tough. Tell us about the doubles and how, what do people do?
I don't know. People just do double. It's so simple, Durham. People do 2 sessions in a row. Like I'm going to
back to back?
Like
or
back
one
to
in
back.
the morning and one at night?
Bit of both. I reckon the back to back is the dumb one. A double, like I haven't worked at a gym in my life that has ever glorified people doing double sessions in a row. Thank gosh. But F45s, however, I've heard coaches have been there, I've seen on Instagram, like, glorification of doing a double session back to back, turning a 45-minute workout into a 90-minute workout, the same thing again. And, like, it's it's meant to be high intensity interval training for 90 minutes, which blows my mind.
That's impossible. Surely you're just going to pace yourself anyway. Like, it's not It's not a double. It's not like you're getting 2 genuine HIIT doubles. Yeah. You have to take a bunch off to achieve the doubling, yeah? Yeah,
and that's where I guess, like, I've done many a rant on a social media about, like, if you feel like you have to do a double, you're probably not working hard enough. If it's a high intensity session, and you're probably not working hard, recovering when you need to, getting the enough bang for your buck. Like, with running or lifting, if you lift hard or run hard, you're going to need a little bit more recovery. And so there's that, and then there's also the doubles of 1 in the morning, 1 in the night. And I think I had after we spoke about that the other day, I just thought, where does that come from? Of the do that training twice a day. I don't know. Do you remember the slogan, like, train like an athlete? Like, you are train athletes. Yeah. Well, Gen Pop people like me totally misinterpret that, I reckon. And we've gone train like an athlete, train twice a day, train hard.
Twice a day.
Yeah, they train twice a day. They train hard twice a day. But I think, like, I don't know, like, potentially it's come from something like that but, you know, if an athlete's training twice a day, there's a method behind it. Like, you're not going to do a high-intensity session and then a strength.
And often they're not doing that either.
And probably they're not. It might be a shooting session at the courts and they're doing technique stuff.
Or craft for footy or whatever. Yeah.
They're doing craft and then they're doing
How do you go about educating people against that grain? Because it's one of those things where I always feel like I'm kind of the logic Grinch. Like people will be like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I'm like, well, look, abs are made in the kitchen, not the gym. So you need to bear that in mind. And B, you're not going to sustain this for more than 5 weeks. Like either you're going to give up or something's going to break. You need to. How do you gently but firmly have those conversations to get people onto a more off what is fundamentally a low performance program onto a higher performance program? Or do you just filter?
I definitely take probably a similar approach to you. I always ask if I see, like, I mean, I'm very lucky that my clients don't do it. And if they ask to do it, I just ask them why. Like, what's your goal? Like, and we, you know, when we're, and most of your athletes and most of my clients that I see, and generally everyone, like, our main goals are the same. Everyone wants to get a little bit leaner. Everyone wants to get fitter, stronger, faster, and they want to be healthier. And it's like, cool, is doing 2 sessions a day going to make you stronger or faster? Prob's not. Like, and explaining as to why. Explaining the importance of recovery and explaining, you know, like even ask them how they feel. Like, why do you feel, why does it feel great to smash yourself every day, like, or twice a day? And if they can't give me a great answer, I'm like, okay, let's unpack that.
That's a great way to do it. Do you know, I reckon because you've touched on 2 of the biggest oversights of my coaching career. And so the first is that I am a recovering perfectionist, so I'm trying to be an awesomist rather than a perfectionist. And so for me, like, if there's the perfect movement, like a gold standard movement, like a trap bar deadlift, like that's just such a great movement. And that's what I would call a AAA movement. It's just so much value, high risk, low risk, high reward. It's just perfect. I just have no interest in cycling that out for a D grade exercise. Like, I'm like, well, I'm just going to do trap bar deadlifts from now until I die. And that's totally fine. And so I had this real blind spot around, sorry, my cat's woken up. Give me, no, it's okay. Sorry, he's just sitting where he is. I had this real blind spot around variety because I was like, no, fundamentally there are about 8 really important movements in the gym. You should just do them really well forever. And then the second blind spot was around being smashed, because good training is about a stimulus where your stimulus to fatigue ratio is favorable. Like, you get the stimulus and you get out of there before you get too much fatigue. You just get enough that comes along for the ride with the stimulus. And so both those things were correct but unpopular. And I've had to learn the hard way in our business that actually I probably need to cycle things around a little more and be prepared to sub in maybe a AA exercise for a AAA, maybe even dip into the Bs sometime. Never burpees or, you know, kipping chin-ups or whatever. But, you know, that being a little more flexible about it. How do you think about exercise substitution? Because what I noticed at your Instagram, which everyone should follow because it's just such top quality, your Instagram is full of really good exercises. And the only one that upset me a little was there's one where you're using books to exercise on.
Oh, that was a hazard.
I was like, no, it wasn't because it was a hazard. I just saw you put a foot on a book. And I'm like, I don't like people walking on books. But anyway, that is, I love your stuff, and you have a really good skill of finding good high quality ways to get that variety in.
Yeah.
What's your coaching philosophy? How do you think about that? Do you have it organized in like a matrix of exercises, or are you just like winging it?
I'm 100% winging it. You'll laugh at this, Durham, but since I started my Instagram, I had a bit of a filter of like, what do I post? What do I share? And and the filter of yes, no is the main one. Would Durham be mad? And if Durham's mad with the content, and if he's just like, if he wouldn't approve, do not post it. So,
really?
Yeah, 100%. I've said it from day one. Every single exercise that I put up, I go, would Durham pick it apart? I think I've posted maybe a few movements that I'd go, yeah, he'd probably disapprove of that.
No, that is untrue. I've liked them all. It's so funny. So, so it's a little more curated for me than I realised, given that I'm kind of the target audience.
You are. Yeah.
In that way.
You're like watching down on it and approving or disapproving, and then the general pop are the ones who try and make it tailored towards them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
there you go.
I love how you talked about variety with movement, and that's like, especially with us at Life Hub, that is, and my PT guys, is when it comes to our programming, how can we give a little bit of what they need and what they want, what we know they need and what they want. So most people want like two things apart from their goals of getting shredded and getting strong. Their goals in their workouts, the objectives are like to get a little bit sweaty and feel a bit puffed, and variety. And at Life Hub, we have a really systemized way of how we do it, which is really similar to how I program my clients. Is we give them their key lifts, their big lifts, their main lifts, and those lifts stay relatively consistent on a 3-week cycle. However, each week it feels like each week the client experiences a different variety of it. So, I mean, it's not perfect. Like a beginner trainer should just enjoy developing the skill, developing the movement with not too much variety. Yep. We know that, but also the beginner client is coming probably from an F45 or coming from a body fit, and all they know is different, fun, random, bizarre, weird, and that's all they know. So our little way
Have I told you my food analogy with workouts?
No? Probably. Let's hear it.
Apologies, I might have said this before on the podcast, but it came to me that a workout should be like a meal. So a meal should, number one, be non-toxic, so you don't want the workout to damage you. It should be, number two, nutritious. It should be of value to you. It should make things better somehow. And number three, it should be tasty. Because if it's not tasty, people won't eat it. And I had this episphany where I realised that at Core Advantage a few years ago, we were serving up the best organic boiled chicken breast with basmati rice and steamed broccoli in the world. And then I was getting all upset because people were like, oh, I'm eating these great hamburgers. Have you seen these hamburgers we're having down at F45? They're incredible. And that's how I see it. That's how I see workouts now. It's like you gotta put some spice on. You gotta maybe grill that chicken a bit. Like I'm getting hungry talking about it. You can't just serve. You can't. You've got to mix it up a little bit more, haven't you? Yeah,
love it. Exactly right. You do. And I mean, for athletes, I think athletes have a point. Their fun stuff is the sport. That's always changing. Like the game itself is the delicious fun stuff. So, like if you're in the gym, like first and foremost is like protect your body, get stronger. Like, so
it's different. Whereas,
it's different. Whereas, like for a lot of people, the gym is their sport. That's where they do their fun stuff.
And so, do you always lead with? Do you still follow those principles of you're leading with the big exercise? Like, so you have your big rocks first, and then you vary up the later things more. Is that generally the format?
Yeah, definitely is with Life Hub. Definitely is when I'm able to coach my one-on-one clients or small group clients, sticking to the main principles as best as possible, and then you can get that little bit of flair on the back end of the workouts that maybe get you a little bit sweatier or get you on the conditioning or get you doing something a little more novel. I would say, most places when I've been able, not working for myself, but working for others, it's like my goal is in my coaching style is coming at it as a very similar view as you. Like, how can we give them the safest thing possible and the smartest thing possible? Like, do we need those burpees there? Do we need burpees? Do we need that silly ab exercise? What can we do better? How can we do it better, but also keep it novel? It's a challenge for sure. Like, there's only so many exercises, but there are ways you can tweak it, changing all the, principles and stuff.
So rep schemes and orders and stuff.
Reps.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Tempo,
I love it. And so you've been very it's been an interesting experiment for me to watch, because when you finish your internship at Core Advantage, I was like, Bree's going to be great no matter what she does. But I'm fascinated to see how well the world receives what she does, because it's not the tasty burger. It is, high quality stuff. You've done really well with that. And I think a big part of that is your really good communication on socials, because when I read your social stuff, I'm like, it's just like I'm talking to you. It's easy to read. It's easy to understand. You're very consistent with it. And look, I really look up to you, because I'm like a 2 out of 10 for social media. Like, I do this, I'm literally like that fat, lazy person that tries to get in shape once every 5 weeks for 4 days, doesn't have a six-pack, and then goes, oh, I give up. Like, that's me on social. Because every post that I do, I hate. Like, every single post I finish, I'm like, well, I hate that, and like, I don't enjoy it at all.
Yeah.
How have you? And because it is putting yourself out there, and for whatever reason, it just pushes my buttons in a way that I just have not quite put it together yet with it. How do you think about getting your message out, and how do you approach that whole side of the business?
Well, Durham, just letting you know, you're doing a great job. You're doing awesome stuff on social media. I'm definitely watching when you're in the zone and you actually do the posts. They're great.
Oh, yeah. But once every 8 weeks, tune in.
But to answer that question, I haven't got a system to how I do it. I don't plan too much. Like, I might set a basic goal of, like, I'd love to be able to put out a piece of content this week, or put out a workout. When it comes to my written stuff, like, if I really go down a rabbit hole of, like, written stuff, or debunking myths, or sharing how I feel about this, and a bit of, layman's terms, I think for me it's like, I know I might know a lot in my head, but I don't know. I just like to talk. I like to write the way I talk. Anyone can understand it. I don't think it needs to be inaccessible. I don't think I need to tell everyone how smart I am or how unsmart I am. I just think I like to get information to more people. It needs to be as relatable as possible. And I guess that's with my writing. That's the goal.
And do you? Sorry to get into the weeds on it. Do you write your posts in notes and then paste them in, or do you want to be actually write them natively in the thing? You just do it in the thing.
Just do it in the thing, just in the moment.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll have absolutely no idea what I'm going to talk about, and it's like I've just been scrolling on social media. Something triggers my brain. I get a bit ranted about something, and I'm like, here's a post. Here's something.
Okay.
Like, this is worth sharing. Here's something. Yeah. I don't put too much. I think if I was to think too much about a piece of content, I would just get caught up in my brain and I would never do anything. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's I can't imagine what that feels like. That's a random thing. I'm not sure. No, I think that's definitely what I need to work on not doing. All right. So tell me, what do you think makes a great personal trainer? Because I have a strong theory that some of the best strength and conditioning coaches ever have started as personal trainers. I think personal training is a wonderful place to learn a lot of your craft, because you have to take people that maybe aren't as willing to maybe a little more allergic to pain, maybe don't want to put in the work and are busy and have other priorities. And so there's a lot of really good soft skills you develop as well as technical skills. What do you think makes for a great Gen Pop trainer and instructor?
I don't know. If you find the answers, please tell me. But I'm still searching. But I think that's an awesome
You've
question.
seen it done wrong. What makes a bad one?
I would
What don't you like that you see in the industry?
Yeah, I'd say first and foremost is like the personable skill, like people skills and empathy and compassion and understanding and being able to talk to another human is probably the most important thing by far. Because I think you were one who told me first, you can know everything in the world, but if you can't connect with somebody else to share it with them, like you're almost useless. Like you could know everything. If you can't communicate it, can't communicate it well, can't build trust, it's not going to be very great. No one's going to come back to someone they don't trust or feel connected with, or someone that, you know, isn't listening to them, you know, in Gen Pop.
I think that's such a good point you make. We don't talk enough about the trust piece, because I think everyone's radar is on the kindness and people skills stuff, and that's clearly necessary but not sufficient. Like, you've got to have that as a prerequisite, but it's not going to get you over the line. But that trust thing is, you know, I'm always talking to our interns and our coaching team about, you want to create a situation where your athletes would run through a brick wall, where you would say, okay, you need to do this, and they would just go, cool, how many times a day should I do that? Like, there's a trust element you're trying to build. But we don't talk about it. Like, it's something I think about, but I don't think we articulate that very much. It's a really good point. I like it.
Yeah, I think core advantage, you guys do really well at, whether you know it or not, at building trust. That's obviously why your business is so successful. Like, you give proof. You give proof that your methods work. You give, through your social media, the content that you provide, and these podcasts and everything that you guys are creating creates trust. It's like social proof, or proof that you know your product. But then to show the people behind, the human element behind, and the about the business is also where the trust comes from.
Yeah. I like it. Closing out things, I want to shift gears a little bit again, get more above the neck. So you mentioned meditating. Meditation is something that I'm really passionate about, even though I'm still crap at it. I get on these little streaks, but I talk a lot better about meditation than I meditate. Although I'm on a really good streak at the moment. I'm on the best consistency block in my life because of a new one. I'm listening to the Headspace one on creativity. Okay. And my normal problem with meditation is some days you get up and it's like, I've got to get this done. I've got to get that. I don't have time to meditate today. I need those 10 minutes, which is total bullshit. Like, there's no day where you actually can't find, because you can make up those 10 minutes by having a 2-minute quicker shower, going to the loo a bit quicker, and, not looking at, Insta. Like, you could catch that 10 minutes up. But anyway, I often have that thing where I say, I don't have time. And I go to sit down and I feel like the meditating is making me more tense because I'm like not doing the thing I need to be doing. Whereas I stumbled across this creativity one where it feels like a much more direct link, because it's like teaching me how to, the whole point of it is teaching me how to think about things creatively, and therefore I'll get my work done quicker. So I'm like, cool, like this is like, I'm kind of greasing the wheels for my productivity day. So I'm on a good roll there. But nevertheless, I'm not great at doing it consistently. How are you do you have a daily practice, or is that something, what's your situation with it as well?
My situation, I love that.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. My practice has not been wonderful. It has not been wonderful on a daily basis at all. There's a good friend called Ryan Mannix, who's a yoga and meditation teacher down in Surf Coast Vic. Incredible human. He always talks about like finding moments of mindfulness or meditations everywhere or yoga's everywhere. It's just you can find moments of practice throughout your day. So although I may not, I'm not mindful of delegating 10 minutes to sit down and do a headspace or breath work. I'm really quite mindful of taking moments of pause and breath. And like for me, it might be.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So for me, I know that a minimum of 4 breaths, maybe up to 8 breaths for me, like 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, really intentional, deep stuff, changes how I feel. And I think there's a bit of science behind that, but don't quote me.
Yeah.
I think it's 6.
There is definitely science behind that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I roll with that.
We'll see if we
can
can find a bit for the show notes as well.
Yeah. But previously, when it came to sitting down and finding a routine,
Bree,
was
just
like
getting onto that, I think what you're doing is actually brilliant because where I feel like I fail with it is that I do the 10-minute block and I'm like, right, being relaxed is over, go. Whereas actually, you could make a strong case that Andy Petticombe in Headspace makes a strong case that what you're actually trying to do is allow that to bleed over into the rest of your life. Like it's not successful meditation if it's just 10 minutes and then the rest of the week is spent being busy, tense and not mindful. Exactly. So I think you're doing better at it than you think. I think that's good. Yeah,
little and frequent, little and often is like the motto.
Distributed practice. That's skill acquisition 101. And maybe it's meditation as well. Awesome. I want to close out with one last question, and this is a tough one. Springing on it at the end, which is a bit mean. Favorite couple of books? What are the books that have had an impact on you?
I'm so glad you asked that. Although I'm currently having a really strong Harry Potter moment.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So far hasn't made a huge impact of my life at all, but definitely made a huge dent in the past 2 weeks or week actually.
Yep.
Love Harry Potter. That's wonderful.
Nice.
Most impactful books for me, Atomic Habits I read last year, which
my God, I'm rereading that right at the moment. I started rereading it yesterday.
I love that. I'm going to start rereading that
good.
soon too. Yeah. 100% Atomic Habits.
Have you read his website?
No, I haven't.
Have you looked at it? It's really good. Because it's just basically bite-size chunks of wisdom taken from the book and from other things. Yeah, jamesclear.com. We'll link it in the show notes as well. It's tremendous. Yeah, he's such a smart guy. I love his stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he's having a great moment. So Atomic Habits, absolutely dived into that one. Oh gosh. The Rich Roll book. It's an ultra running book.
That's right.
By Rich Roll.
Okay.
And he talks a lot about like slow running and how it influenced him. He has some epic stories of his ultra running career and his diet and all that sort of kind of niche stuff, but the way he views running for, he's named to be one of the fittest men in the world, and him having to be humbled at running slow is awesome. Like he didn't get he didn't become who he is, and he didn't change his life if it wasn't for him humbling himself and moving a little slower. Third book, I haven't got one in my head. Change Makers, actually, for coaches, actually, probably Change Makers.
By John Berardi.
By John Berardi, yeah.
I've got that right behind me, and I haven't read it yet. I should really read it, right?
Yeah, I think you'd be able to blitz through it, but I mean, and you're doing all the things in it to a T, but I think it just builds up a really good mindset for coaches and people in business, I think, to nail the foundations before you try and hone too much in on the nuance of your craft.
And for those that don't know who John Bright is, he was the founder of Precision Nutrition, arguably the smartest nutrition company in the world. They're incredible.
Incredible.
I have so much admiration for how well they've made a complex, controversial, bullshit-laden industry that threaded the needle and made it really clever and easy and doable. And I didn't realize he sold it about 4 years ago. So he's out. He's just a gentleman of leisure these days.
I love that.
So as a
Lucky
business
man.
person as well, he nailed it. Like he's built it up and then got to be Zen guy later on. Very
well
very
deserved, well earned. He's done great.
I think so. Yeah. Those are great recommendations. I put you under pressure and you delivered more than. That's awesome. So, Breeza, we will link in the show notes all of the places people can find you. And I couldn't, if you are on the Surf Coast, I couldn't recommend Bree more highly. Well worth having an awesome trainer in your corner. We'll catch up sometime. We'll talk about Changemakers. I've put some pressure on myself to read it so we can talk about it.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much for this, Durham. It's been awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. All right, cheers. See ya.
Bye.
Okay, hope you enjoyed that episode. You'll find all the relevant show notes over at coreadvantage.com.au. Also on the website, you can find more information about our athletic development services, education, our short courses, and everything else we're up to. So that's coreadvantage.com.au. Cheers, guys. See ya.